We have more practice on this page for names and formulas. Notice now it just says compounds. So there might be ionic compounds and there might be molecular compounds here. Most of these we'll do together in class, but before we jump to that, I want to look down at this bonus. These same questions were on the last page too. Bonus just means extra work, not extra credit. So take a look at these. When I look at these, I see NO2. Kind of reminds me of the nitrate, but there's no charge on it. And I also notice that there's no metal. So if I can go to name this NO2, I'm thinking, oh, this is molecular. Okay, there's no metals in it. So molecular rules, if you can go back to your naming flowchart, molecular compound rules, we use prefixes for every element, and that was these math prefixes, unless you have mono for the first element. So here I have just one nitrogen, so I'm going to conserve the name there, nitrogen, and now I have two oxygens. So I'm going to say dioxide. And all these same ides that we were using for ionic compounds, I still am going to use. Let's try this SO3. Don't get confused. This is different than SO4 with a charge on it, right? This has no charge. So all the electrons are being shared. So this is, again, a molecular compound. And I would name this sulfur. And then I have oxygen, but 3 now. So trioxide. Notice as I was looking at these, you're never going to look at charges when it's molecular, okay? If it's molecular, there is no ion forming anywhere, so don't try to put ions on these. I didn't look at my charges, didn't look at the periodic table. They're actually kind of easy. Let's try this name here then, dinitrogen pentoxide. These names are pretty easy, I think. So I see nitrogen and it says di. So I just write what I read, N2, that's dinitrogen, and then pentoxide. Pent is the prefix for 5, and oxide, so then I say O5. All right, so I've left you a couple to try there as well. So you don't want to try the problems on this page until you've practiced a lot on the previous slides, but once you get here, here's how you're going to want to think through them. First question always, is this compound ionic or molecular? And remember, our clue with ionic was that it was going to have a metal in it, right? So I want to look through, and I'll just scan through all of these. Calcium is a metal, magnesium's a metal, strontium's a metal, sodium's a metal. And I would figure that out by finding them here on the periodic table, right? Here's strontium, here's sodium, here's potassium. So find them on that metal side or not, okay? Once you figured that out, now you know which of your rules to use, right? The ionic rules or the molecular rules. So you might look here and say, okay, this is ionic, calcium, nitride. No prefixes, right? So molecular is always going to use prefixes, and ionic is never going to use prefixes. So you've got that. I get to CO2 and I say, oh, this is molecular, right? No metal. So this is where I would use my prefixes, carbon dioxide. All right, so you want to take that approach as you go through every single quadrant here. Remember, these will be all similar, getting harder, similar, getting harder. First question, ionic or molecular? Ionic or molecular? And I highlight it just so you have all of those. And we will do some of these in class, and then you can practice and also redo them. There's also a bunch of really good workbook pages that give you even more practice on all the naming, and really you just want to do tons of them. All right, so be able to name your molecular compounds, and then be able to name both ionic and molecular all jumbled together.